That's right. Get out of America's way. We're back. That little moment there was a gem. Showed so much. A man willing to fight for America, and everybody got out of the way quick. Force of personality. That's what I call it. And it is a huge component to President Trump's leadership that, quite frankly, hasn't even been acknowledged. What is force of personality? There's actually a big psychological kind of body of work on this stuff. Force of personality refers to an individual's exceptional charisma, confidence, and persuasive qualities that strongly influence others and inspire a positive atmosphere. It goes on. It reflects a person's ability to engage, motivate, and lead through their unique presence and energy. What else? People with a strong force of personality typically exude enthusiasm, passion, and authenticity, making them memorable and impactful in their interactions. Also, their charisma can foster trust and loyalty, encouraging collaboration and innovation among those around them. Does that sound familiar or what? Okay, force of personality. We see it every day from President Trump. No matter where he is, no matter the circumstances, positive or negative, you can feel it, you can see it. Big moments like these, and just interacting with the media or heads of state or whatever he has to do as president. And fascinatingly, when they tried to lock him up and they tried to throw him in jail, we saw it even more. It enhanced that force of personality. Executive orders, running the country. This is what running the country looks like. And people respond. Young people, old people, men, women, you name it. This is what leadership looks like. And it's pretty awesome. And we have another war that just ended moments ago. Forgive me, but I didn't even know they were at war. Azerbaijan versus Armenia. There is now peace. There is now peace. They're going to make it formal tomorrow at the White House. Now, all of these things are very, very positive. The force of personality, as opposed to what they try to say, that this is a cult of personality, which is very, very negative. But that's what they try to sell. That's what they say. That's what they accuse MAGA of, right? That we're part of a cult.
I mean, I think there is absolutely a cult of personality around Donald Trump.
It's just another example of the cult of personality continuing to play out over the twice impeached retired golfer in Florida.
It really nailed exactly how Trump managed to turn the Republican Party into a cult of personality focused on just one man, Donald Trump himself.
All right, they don't know what they're talking about. The cult of personality is negative. That's Stalin. That's Kim Jong-un. A cult of personality describes a destructive phenomenon where a leader is deified through aggressive propaganda and media manipulation. Just right there alone with the media. Give me a break. He gets the worst press in the world. Keep going, if you don't mind. Creating an atmosphere of blind devotion and unquestioning loyalty. This toxic dynamic stifles critical thought and dissent as followers are conditioned to idolize the leader. Americans can never fall prey to a cult of personality. We're too good for that. It doesn't work. And they're totally misrepresenting why we like President Trump. That's not that. And yes, you know, you ever see President Trump get booed? Watch him talk about the vaccine. It's happened. I've seen it happen. But most presidents, neither a cult of personality nor the force of personality. Just politicians striving for the top job in the business. And I want to talk about George H.W. Bush for a moment, because he's kind of emblematic of most presidents, right? He's like an average president in many ways. And we're never going to see this again, hopefully. A guy who just sits there and takes it. Check it out.
Let me read you something that John Connolly's been saying about you. In reference to those jobs you held, many of them appointed jobs, he points out.
Clean it up now when you say it.
Connolly's quoted as saying, quote, cleaning it up.
Yeah.
George Bush sat on his butt in those jobs. He had those jobs, but he didn't do very much in those jobs.
I will adhere, albeit difficult, to the 11th commandment. Speak ill of no Republican.
I mean, with the weird smiles and you're going to just sit there and take it? Yeah. Is that gentlemanly? No, it's bad. But now, President Trump, of course, does not do that, right? Wherever he goes, he fights back. you have to. I noticed this as a kid, that the president, the incumbent president, was always the incoming, like a professional target, and not hitting back adequately. Well, he hits back more than adequately, don't you think? But a couple of other things, because President Trump just blew up this whole model of politics. George H.W., Biden, the rest, Obama, a lot of fakery involved. This is way back in the day, a George H.W. commercial being produced in New Hampshire. And it's all fake.
Bush supporters were brought in to be in the film.
Watch the wires and be very careful.
Their role carefully explained by Goodman.
When George gets off the plane, we're going to have a kind of a victory aisle for him to walk through. We're all naturally going to be rather excited about his entrance. And then George will come to the mics, we'll all gather around him, and we'll let him turn us on.
For this night, the airport hangar was transformed into a movie set. But the star's arrival, he was flying in from another campaign stop, was delayed by rain. Finally, here he was. Lights, camera, action.
I bring you word from across America. We're going all the way.
How's that for a slogan? We're going all the way. This is another reason why they can't stand Trump. It's all fake. It's all manufactured. There's no natural love for politicians, but President Trump is not a politician. By the way, the coolest thing in this commercial coming up in the plane, that turned out to be fake.
Reporters discovered that Bush had, in fact, arrived at the airport by car. It was raining too hard to fly, had then climbed into a plane only for the short taxi run to the hangar. After all, the script called for an airport arrival.
You think they had to fake bringing Trump Force One into New Hampshire, right? This happened. Yeah, of course. There was an invitation put out, but you didn't have to pay these people to show up. They wanted to be there. It's the force of personality, not to be underestimated, folks, or overlooked, all right? Next, please.
Mr. Nixon, what is the truth about our ability to fight the growing menace of communism?
Well, first, we must recognize communism for what it is. Mr. Khrushchev understands only strength and firmness. To apologize to him just means weakness. Our next president must show clearly that America won't stand for being pushed around anywhere in the world. When Mr. Khrushchev says our grandchildren will live under communism, we must answer his grandchildren will live in freedom.
Wow. Nixon, the ultimate anti-communist. He hated communism. When he got there as a congressman in the 40s, he was outing congressmen at the State Department, at the Foreign Service, all over the place. His credentials were so solid as far as fighting communism that, well, have you ever heard this phrase before?
Only Nixon could go to China.
That's Mr. Spock in Star Trek about 500 years from now, talking about Nixon and only he could go to China. That's kind of a thing. Only Nixon can go or could go to China. Now, the thing that's interesting about that, his credentials were so solid, he didn't have to convince anybody that he didn't like communism, so he could go. But somebody like George McGovern couldn't go. Now, this brings me to Trump and Putin. You see, President Trump wanted to have decent relations with Russia. Is there anything wrong with that? Of course not. But the swamp didn't want it, right? They didn't want President Trump to be reaching new deals or places with Putin and Russia. And I don't think the swamp wants Zelensky in the scene as well, right? They don't want to see an end to this war, and President Trump is breaking a sweat, actually doing stuff to make this horrible war end, right? How many people so far? It's just been terrible. Absolutely terrible. And he's not afraid to say, you know what, I don't like anybody dying in a war, whether it's the Ukrainians or the Russians.
This would be a very great achievement if we could get the war stopped and get them back to normalization. I think that's going to happen. This, to me, is one of the most important things because we have tremendous death taking place as we speak, and I don't want to have that. You know, think of the parents, think of whether they're in Russia or Ukraine, think of the parents of all these people being killed needlessly.
You know, 4 years of this war with Biden, you never heard anything. Mr. Empathy, he didn't seem to care. He just seemed to more money and weapons, money and weapons. What about diplomacy? What about peace? Now, there is the risk, if you try for peace, that you don't achieve it. But that's a risk worth taking, don't you think? Forget what these people say. It's the ultimate goal.
Well, Donald Trump has not ended this war on day one like he promised to do.
He comes in on the campaign trail. He says we're going to do this day one. Okay, that obviously doesn't happen. No one really thought it was going to happen on day one, but that's what he said. Those are his words, right?
President Trump promised on day one, you will recall, that he would end this war on day one. Obviously, that hasn't happened.
Wow. Talk about egg on your face, huh? Well, it was worth it. At least he tried, and at least he's trying. But the swamp doesn't want it. Why not? I don't really know. I can't figure it out, but I do have evidence that they were trying to screw up President Trump and all this Russia stuff. It's better. It's better when we're at peace with Russia or at peace with North Korea or China or what have you. This is Obama right after President Trump won, and he's trying to explain his way out of Russiagate, okay? And all that intelligence that was leaked, that fake intelligence, he knows he's in trouble. He knows that this day is probably going to arrive, or at least he's worried about it. Maybe he thinks he can handle it. Watch how cagey he is with these pretty direct, semi-blunt questions.
Did the Russian hack of the Democratic National Committee and other targets actually affect the results of the election in your view?
There's no doubt that it contributed to an atmosphere in which the only focus for weeks at a time, months at a time, were Hillary's emails, the Clinton Foundation, political gossip, surrounding the DNC.
Well, he's lying, but he's trying to prepare the battlefield. That was the only thing being discussed in 2016, the only thing. They were all over Trump every single day, the incoming, trying to delegitimize him in every possible way. But these are the seeds of the whole Russia mess, all of it. And you can tell, in my opinion, that he's guilty. Next.
Elections can always turn out differently. You never know which factors are going to make a difference. But I have no doubt that it had some impact. Everyone now acting surprised by the CIA assessment that this was done purposely to improve Trump's chances. And my only point was that shouldn't be treated as a blockbuster because that was the worst kept secret in this town. Everybody understood that.
It's like, it's a very careful script he seems to be following, right? The CIA assessment, however, hadn't been completed, wasn't even finished yet. They were still in the process of editing selectively, of creating a fake picture of what Putin wanted or didn't want.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.